Namaskaram. In India, electricity generation cost is cheaper than many other countries, but the tariffs paid by Indians is among the highest in the world. Be it domestic, agricultural, commercial, or industrial usage, we're all paying 3 or 4 times more than what we are supposed to pay. Every month, when you pay your power bills, have you ever wondered why you have to pay so much? How many times have you thought why these electricity charges keep going up every few months? How big is this impact, and in how many ways is this going to affect you badly? See, right now in the modern world, it is extremely difficult to find an industry that is completely independent of electricity. From food to fashion, defense to daily labor, education to e-commerce, any business or industry needs electricity for various functions and operations. We can say electricity has become the oxygen for a nation's economy. Just like how a biological organism cannot survive without oxygen, economies of a nation cannot function or grow without a continuous, reliable, and affordable supply of electricity. India has produced 1,824 billion units of energy in the fiscal year 2024-25, third highest producer and consumer only after USA and China. India is also performing strongly in green energy initiatives, ranking fourth globally in renewable energy capacity, fourth in wind, and third in solar as of 2025. India has also achieved its 50% non-fossil fuel power capacity 5 years ahead of its 2030 goal. So things look good. What is the problem then? See, it's like this. It's just an analogy. Let us say you bought a new house in a very nice apartment in a very good locality, one of the finest looking buildings in the neighborhood, and few other people buying the rest of the flats. You guys never hesitate to spend money on maintaining the amenities, redecorating, repainting, adding more and more interiors to the building. You want to make sure that the building looks bright and new always. So you were never bothered about spending money for this. You keep paying your EMIs on the house. And after a few years, a small cyclone just for a couple of days with fierce winds and rain, water gets clogged in the cellar just for one day, and the building collapses. Because nobody bothered to check the damaged pillars or the cracking foundation below the building. That is when you realize you should have paid more attention to the structure of the building. Now you lost your house, you have to pay the loan still, and on top of this, you have to maintain your monthly rentals now. Now, please don't ask me what if the building collapsed when there are people in it so they don't have to worry about all this. Instead of you hitting me with logic and humor, we could actually see how we can relate this to what's happening with the public power sector in our country. In India, over the last 2 decades, to meet the rising demand and to provide a better service, major infrastructure upgrades like building high voltage substations, expanding transmission networks, integrating a large amount of renewable energy, bringing in smart technologies, and many such other initiatives were launched. But there is still one segment that has a lot of room for improvement in the public power sector, especially in handling the electricity loss. Just during transmission and distribution alone, nearly 20% of electricity goes waste. Aggregate technical and commercial loss is still at 16%. Technical loss is the physical energy lost during transmission and distribution, while commercial loss is lost due to non-billing, pilferage, meter-related issues, and theft. This is a report from the India's Climate and Energy Dashboard. In the fiscal year 2015-16, aggregate technical and commercial loss was at 23.96%, transmission and distribution loss was at 24.8%. It gradually declined, and in the fiscal year 23-24, the ATC loss was at 16.12% and 20% in T&D loss. Even the Ministry of Power reports somewhere between 15 to 16% of ATC loss, and a few other reports and sources show that losses during transmission and distribution is nearly 20%. If we convert this into rupees, it is more than 1,70,000 crore rupees every year. This is 2% of the GDP we are talking. Even though our governments keep sanctioning budgets and releasing funds towards progress, we are still far from reaching better performance standards. There are over 60 state-run discoms, 33 deemed and 14 private ones in India. While the private sector is seeing profits, the distribution companies run by the government are in huge losses and debts. Their accumulated debt amount exceeds 7 lakh crores. The power distribution companies, also called as discoms, are under huge losses because of high operational costs, poor revenue collection, government policies, and other major factors like inefficient power procurement. When the state governments make agreements with power generation companies, they agree to pay high cost and make long-term power purchase agreements, often at fixed and outdated prices. This prevents discoms to benefit from market efficiencies. And accumulated debt, generally used to cover losses, leads to high interest payments and that will further strain finances. Defective meters, unmetered connections, limited payment options, the use of electricity by unauthorized methods like tampering with meters, bypassing them, or illegally connecting the power lines lead to revenue leakage. Tariffs set to benefit customers often do not cover the actual cost of supply. Discoms must recover this difference through government subsidies, This can be reduced if the governments work on procurement and purchasing at lower costs. When state governments give subsidies, they often delay the payments for those subsidies, creating cash flow problems for discoms and leading to a buildup of debt. Political pressure can prevent timely tariff revisions or lead to implementation of policies that are not financially sustainable. Like free electricity schemes, it brings immense burden on these discoms. This burden directly falls upon the people, and people have to pay these debts, higher interest rates, and the penalties on this. Many discoms are understaffed, and this will lead to poor maintenance, causing such huge losses and debts. Several discoms and electricity departments under the state governments have significant number of job vacancies. In fact, a few states that announced free electricity and other subsidies for political gains, of course, to please the voters, not just the governments to blame here. Their distribution companies were already drowning in huge losses and debts. Now, this will only worsen the situation. If this continues, it will become tougher and much difficult to run these discoms and gencos even on a day-to-day expense basis, which will leave a horrible burden on people in the form of higher tariffs, disturbed power supply, and tough choices like privatizing these discoms, basically giving up on them. The financial burden accumulated with interest and further losses will be critical on us in the coming years. We need our governments to focus on this not just in the form of budgets and funds or policies, but in providing enough resources, upgrading, reshaping our discoms, and more than anything in a strong commitment that assures people about it. And they will not do it unless people demand for it. I hope we do understand electricity is like oxygen for our economy, right? So just imagine this one complication of paying higher tariffs for electricity. If this one complication is dealt with, it will give huge relief for many sectors, even from agriculture to everything. Just think about the benefits we get, the prices reduced on those products, from food to groceries to textiles, everything. All of us can benefit in many, many ways. We are losing 1.7 lakh crore every year, and there is a huge pile of debt amounting to 7 lakh crores on us. Think of the high interest rates and the penalties we are going to pay. We are actually paying those penalties. All of us who pay our power bills, we are paying almost 4 times more than what we're supposed to pay every month. And just imagine we have to pay 4 or 5 times more than what we are paying now in just a couple of years. Until we pay attention and start asking the right questions, this situation will not get better. If you just notice, I'm sure you will realize how big this is an issue for all of us. Thank you.